Howdy folks, this is Big Sam. Today, I'm going to help you answer the question, is the Mosin Nagant 9130 rifle that's currently tucked away in your safe right now actually an accuracy rifle? Now, in order to do that, we first have to define what is an accuracy rifle. Okay, so simply put, an accuracy rifle is a sniper grade or sniper marked Mosin Nagant 9130 rifle that was never drilled for a scope. All right, now why would that even be a thing, right? Why are accuracy rifles existing? Was that purposeful? Well, here's a good answer, or my best shot at an answer. So basically the reason we see a lot of accuracy rifles, or we see any of them, is because when we had sniper rifles being produced, especially before the war, which is what we're looking at here, this is actually not an accuracy rifle, this is a sniper rifle, but I'm going to use this to help make a point. Okay, so when we were having these sniper rifles produced, this particular one is a Tula PEM X sniper rifle made in 1939. When they were producing these rifles, they actually had a totally separate production line for sniper grade barrels, okay? And this way they were able to tightly control the tolerances. You see, before World War II, before 1941 and Operation Barbarossa started, the way they were able to make these was, and the way they defined a sniper grade barrel was a bore with 50% tighter tolerances than a normal 9130 rifle. So by having a separate production line for the whole barrel assembly here, they were able to control the quality of their sniper grade barrels. So on Tula rifles before the war, a real giveaway here are these markings right up here, this C and this N right here, okay? Now these are Russian markings. This is actually S and P in Russian, but it's not really important for today. What you need to realize is that these two letters here indicate that this is a sniper grade barrel. But this doesn't 100% indicate that this rifle is a sniper rifle. Just from these markings, this could theoretically be an accuracy rifle. Okay, so there's that term again, an accuracy rifle. What are you talking about, Big Sam? Well, the reason we would have accuracy rifles come about is because sometimes they would be producing these sniper grade barrels and they'd go to assemble the rifle and they'd say, okay, where's my scope? Let me grab a scope and a scope mount to throw on this rifle. And they didn't have any. You see, especially with the PEM snipers, the scope mounts were extremely difficult to manufacture. They required a lot of machining and they had really tight tolerances. So what this led to was, on occasion, they would go to build a sniper rifle from a completed barrel like this, and they didn't have the parts. So in that case, instead of just keeping the rifle and waiting around, a lot of times what they did was they just said, okay, whatever, we'll just go ahead and throw this into the standard production quota so that we can help meet that, and this is just going to become a regular 9130 rifle. So that's one of the reasons we would see sniper marked and sniper grade barrels on normal 9130 rifles that were just never ever drilled for a scope in the first place. So really strange. Okay, now we're going to take a closer look at some rifles and some markings, but getting back to the accuracy rifle here, let's first talk about the criteria, before we even look at the markings, the criteria that your rifle must meet as a prerequisite for it to even possibly be an accuracy rifle. So for it to be an accuracy rifle, it has to be made at the same time sniper rifles were being made, okay? So before 1941, the only manufacturer of sniper rifles for the 9130 was the Tula factory. The Ijevsk factory never made a sniper rifle before 1942. And that's a really helpful way to tell if a sniper rifle is real or not. One of the ways, right? Because if it's marked Ijevsk and it's marked 1939, well, then you know it's fake, right? It was never initially a sniper rifle. So, also though, you really wouldn't see any sniper rifles in any kind of quantity before 1932, really. And that's when we had the original PE. And if you want a little more information on the different sniper variations, you can go watch our previous video on Mosin Nagant X sniper rifles. But for now, just know that production of the sniper rifles for the Mosin Nagant 9130s really started in 1932 by the Tula factory here. This is a later one. This is a 1939. Okay, so before 1942, the only manufacturer of sniper rifles was the Tula factory. And before 1942, they were marked with a C and a P here. Now, the early ones weren't actually marked that, and if you're interested in hearing more about that, again, we cover that in the X Sniper video. So now that that whole spiel and disclaimers out of the way, let's take a closer look at some different rifles. And we'll take a look at how they're marked and see if it's an accuracy rifle. Okay, so now we're taking a look at a 1943 Tula 9130 rifle. And as you can see here, our markings have changed. So we now have a C and an H. So these would be the sniper markings during World War II for the Tula factory. So they went from it looked like a C and an N to a C and an H here. Okay, so if you see that, that basically means that it's either a sniper rifle or an accuracy rifle. Now, remember how I mentioned a little bit earlier that they had separate barrel production before the war? Well, it gets a little bit complicated because you see when Operation Barbarossa started and World War II really started for the Soviet Union in 1941, when they started battling the Nazis, they weren't actually making any sniper rifles. Why is that? Well, it's really simple. Remember I said Ijevs never made a sniper rifle before 1942. So that means that during 1941, when the invasion started, they weren't making any sniper rifles. Well, why is that important? Well, the Tula factory actually stopped production of the 9130 rifle in 1940. So there was no sniper rifle production at all in 1941 for the Mosin Nagant rifle. Now in 1942 they resumed production, but they were having a lot of trouble and they weren't actually initially able to have a separate manufacturing process for sniper barrels. So what they did instead was just took a look around and they would take measurements of each barrel they had and basically just, let's say, okay, here's all the barrels that have been made for 9130 rifles. This one and this one, they took measurements of, and they said, okay, these ones are actually really good dimensions. We're just going to take these and set them aside to produce sniper rifles. PEM snipers, specifically, in early 1942. Later in 1942, it's my understanding that they were finally able to resume separate barrel production for sniper rifles. And that's what this guy would have been. This would have been produced on a separate assembly line or by a separate process. And that's what we can see here, the S and the C and the H, or the S and the N if you're Russian. Now, if we look in here, right, we can see that this is in fact not an accuracy rifle. This is an Ijevsk Pu Sniper. So we will continue to look for an accuracy rifle, but for this particular rifle, hopefully this helps you get a little bit better understanding of what to look for barrel markings. Now, sometimes the C and the H can be kind of hard to see, and they can be really close, or they can actually be really far apart, like over here and over here. So you just have to look a little bit closely on every single rifle to see, are these markings present? All right, let's take a look at our next rifle. All right, so this rifle, as you can see, is definitely not an accuracy rifle. This is actually a Pu Sniper rifle, produced in 1944 by the Ijevsk factory. Now, what specific markings did the Aegevs factory use on sniper rifles? We've already taken a closer look at some of the Tula ones, the C and the N before the war, and the C and the H during the war. But what about the Aegevs factory? Well, the Aegevs factory, starting in early 1942, or a little bit later in 1942, it's my understanding that they started marking specifically the barrels once they were able to start successfully producing barrels on a separate assembly line. They would mark these with, it looks like a C within a circle. You see this C marking right here? It's inside a circle. Now, this marking is oftentimes poorly stamped. This is one of the better examples I could find for today's video. But it's kind of poorly stamped even here. And in later 1942 to early 1943, this stamp was usually marked on the left side of the barrel shank, kind of over here. Okay, and then later in 1943, and from then on, it was marked on the right side of the barrel shank. Sometimes you'll see it kind of in the center, but as a rule of thumb, that's generally the position. So if you have a sniper rifle, a true one, made by the Ijevsk factory, it should have this C in a circle marking. Now, as we're going to see here in a little bit, this can get interesting and kind of tedious because Ijevsk made so many rifles that they just didn't really take the time always to properly stamp these in a really nice manner. So these can be kind of hard to see. And another thing we can see here, there's another marking on these rifles. It's actually an O in a circle. And we can see that marking right here. And that one actually was to test how well the bolt group interacts with the receiver. And sometimes it can be kind of mistaken for this mark and vice versa. So you kind of have to just look at it a bunch to tell the difference. But basically, the easy way to tell the difference is the 0 or the O in the circle is not nearly as wide as the C here is. Right there. And we'll see that on a few more rifles that we'll take a look at here. But this is how Ijevs marked their sniper rifles. Now, before we look at some more examples of this, there's also a separate marking present on Ijevs rifles after 1941 that would be here in the absence of a sniper marking. So what does that mean? Well, basically, there's another marking which is a K within a circle, and that was a proof mark that denotes the rifle passed an accuracy test. But the K within a circle was not stamped at all on Ijevs produced sniper rifles. So that K within a circle, if you see that, that definitely means that this was not an original sniper rifle on an Ijevsk rifle. All right, so let's take a look at what that K in a circle looks like. All right, so here I have, well, this is kind of an atrocity. It's a 1941 9130 rifle. This particular one is in an Archangel stock, and we'll look at it more another day. And for those of you who are offended that it's in an Archangel stock, just try not to focus on it. What we're actually looking at here is this K in a circle marking. And we can see that it's right here. This was typically marked on the left side of the barrel shank. So right here, in this one it's upside down, but if you see a K in a circle, that denotes this is a standard infantry rifle. This was not a barrel specifically produced on the assembly line for sniper barrels. So again, if you see this, it's not a sniper barrel, and if you have a sniper rifle, it should not have this at all, right? So that's basically the easy way to tell. Now, if you have an accuracy rifle, you should not have this stamp either. Because remember, from the barrel perspective, an accuracy rifle is a sniper rifle barrel. All right, so there's another thing to look for. So now let's actually take a look at an accuracy rifle and see what it can tell us. All right, so here we finally have the long-awaited accuracy rifle. So what are we looking at here? Well, as you can see, this is a 1943 9130 made by the Ijevsk factory. And how do we know this is an accuracy rifle? Well, remember, since this is an Ijevsk Mosin Nagant, what we want to look for is that C in a circle marking. And we can see that it's actually right here. Again, remember I said sometimes these can be hard to spot. Now here is our O or 0 in a circle marking, which is also poorly stamped. But that was to test how the bolt group interacts with the receiver. And this guy right here is our C marking in a circle, right? And it's really poorly stamped. It's not very visible, but it's very distinctive. We can see, it's really faint here, but we can see it sweeps up right here. And this is a later 1943, it appears, so we would expect to see it on here on the right side of the barrel shake, just like that Pu Sniper we were looking at. Okay? So this appears to be a sniper grade barrel. Now another thing we need to check is, does it have that circle K marking? Because in order for this to truly be a sniper barrel, there should be no circle K marking on the other side. So let's flip it around and take a look. All right, so as you can see, this is our same rifle, and we look here, there is no K in a circle. So that's really strange. Okay, now typically we would have, on a sniper rifle, you'd have, on an Ijevsk sniper rifle specifically, because Tula didn't do this, but Ijevs from the factory, they would actually stamp the serial number of the original scope for the rifle on the left side of the barrel shank right here. But we don't see that either. Now, as you can see, this is not actually a sniper rifle. This is just a normal 9130 rifle. And if I flip it around again, and we take a look in the bolt here, in the bolt channel, we can see that this is in fact not an X sniper rifle, because you see there's no holes in here. So this rifle was never drilled for a scope or anything like that. It's just a standard 9130 rifle. This is how it came from the factory, but it has a sniper grade barrel. So this is what we would call an accuracy rifle. Now, are accuracy rifles common? Well, the short answer is no. And it's interesting because while we have data on how many sniper rifles were produced, we have really no good idea how many accuracy rifles were produced at all. What I can tell you is these are fairly hard to find. I don't see very many of these rifles. And you have to think, like, you know, even in 1943, they're wanting to produce sniper rifles. It's a core part of the Soviet doctrine, so you know, you'd kind of hate to go the trouble of producing a sniper grade barrel and then not being able to use it. But as we can see here, in the case of this rifle, that's what happened. Now, this rifle is also really fascinating because it's non-refurbished, it's not import marked, it's a very strange rifle, and we'll take a look at it another day because this has a lot of interesting things to tell us as well. But for right now, just know that this is an accuracy rifle. All right, now let's take another look at an Ijevsk rifle that has a really, really poorly stamped one of these, just to show you how poor these can be stamped. All right, so this rifle you'll actually recognize from our partisan sniper rifles of Yugoslavia video. This is a 1944 Ijevsk Pu Sniper, as you can see. And it's missing the scope mount, but that's not really important for the sake of this video. The important thing is trying to take a look at that accuracy marking. And the lighting is being a little weird, so we're going to look at it. Now remember, during and after 1943, it should be stamped on the right side of the barrel shank. Well, we can see that our C in a circle is, let me move this because the lighting's just not great here. All right, the C in the circle marking, this is pretty funny. It's right here, right? I mean, there's only about maybe like 20% of it even present. But this is it, right? And this is one of the things where you just have to have the experience of looking at a bunch of these to be able to look at this and say, oh, that's what it is. And again, this is not our O in a circle marking, because that is right down here. Okay. And again, if we look here, there is no K in a circle marking present, which is good. That's what we would expect on a real sniper rifle. Now, I got one more interesting rifle along these lines to take a look at. So let's do that now. All right, so here's yet another 1944 Pu Sniper made by the Aegevs factory. You can see here's our scope. And what's interesting about this guy is it appears to have that C in a circle marking double stamp. So we have a decently stamped one right here, but we also have another stamping right here. So you have this one, and then there's this one as well. So this one appears to actually be double stamped, which is quite strange. And again, there's our 0 in a circle marking, so we're not confusing it with one of these. So you never really know what you're going to get with one of these from a marking standpoint. And again, there's no K in a circle here, so that's what we'd expect. All right, so we've taken a look at a lot of rifles today, and I hope that this has given y'all a little bit better understanding of how sniper rifles are marked, as well as how to tell if your Mosin Nagant is actually an accuracy rifle. So thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know what y'all would like to see next. Let me know if y'all have any prayer requests, and I'll see you next time.